Welcome to Rumble Talk with Kev and Dan. Thanks for joining us here on the Rumble Talk show with me, the Nexus, or Kev, and...
Hello guys, I'm Dan.
And we're just going to see what we're going to be doing going forward. Obviously, it's called Rumble Talk, so it's obviously about wrestling. But we're going to cover everything, just general wrestling talk, but also WWE shows like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, that sort of thing. And I hope you guys can join us on the adventure. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's something new, something a bit different, something that I think needed to happen for us. I think obviously things, there was a reason why we kind of couldn't, pump out as much content as we wanted on YouTube, and I think this is a different avenue, and it's a different way of getting content out there that's probably easier listening to other people with it being shorter format content, and it'll be easier for us as well, because if we've got an hour free, we've got an hour there to record three different shows, so
cameras, no big setup equipment. We don't have to find some time where we have to be a little bit more quieter, maybe, or something like that. We can just go off for 10, 20 minutes and
exactly
sort of bang out a podcast.
Exactly.
Where before we have to make sure there's a camera set up and everything's set up on YouTube side and stuff like that. Obviously, this will still be on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, but this, like you said, just gives us another avenue of us getting material out and people as well to listen to. So,
yeah,
hope everyone.
I think. Look, as good as YouTube is, it does have its flaws. Once you're watching a YouTube video, you've got to have your phone unlocked and open. And you've got to have that screen on. And our shows on YouTube, we used to try and stick to an hour. It always ended up running over.
Of course it did. Yeah.
That's always been. It's why people that have listened to our shows in the past always enjoy them, because there's no bullshit with us.
Definitely.
But everyone listening to it knows it's two mates having a chat about wrestling, football, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's
exactly.
It's real stuff. You can tell that nothing's scripted. Nothing's, It is what it is, and like you said, with Spotify, the beauty of Spotify is you can be doing anything else while Spotify's on. It's why podcasts on Spotify and Audibles and stuff.
I mean, this podcast will be available on Spotify, on Amazon, on Apple.
Yeah.
In fact, anywhere you can get a podcast, it's on there.
Yeah.
So even if you're not on Spotify or you're not on Amazon, but you are on other YouTube like podcast outlets, this is going to be on there, because the great thing about this is that it gets posted to everywhere. And obviously, this will still be on YouTube as well. And obviously, we would like everyone to give it a little cheeky subscribe, like, whatever, even on Spotify, so you can keep up to date with all the videos that we're posting. But you know what? I'll keep making that mistake. All the audibles, all the podcasts that we're doing, because obviously I'm so used to recording everything.
Yeah, no, you are right, and it was a good idea. It was something that we nearly got going. If you remember, like 18 months ago. Then obviously things happened with me. And things ended up unfortunately stopping. But I think it's like you said with this, and we will still be doing content on YouTube. We don't want to. Rule anything out. We want to be able to hit every single streaming service.
Exactly.
Of course we are. And look, I love YouTube, but like it does have its flaws, and people do get bored. So I think with it being, a mixture of it being slightly shorter format mixed with the fact that you can press play, lock your phone, put it in your pocket, walk about, bloody wash the pots.
Exactly. Because obviously, if you haven't got YouTube Premium, you can't do that.
No, exactly.
And a lot of people don't have that, so
this
is a much better format. So
Yeah.
And also I want to say as well, like, just so people get to know us a bit more, because obviously this is like an induction to us and what they can expect from the podcast going forwards. Like you said, it's just two mates talking about wrestling, what's going on in wrestling, how we feel about it, and stuff like that. But sort of, when did you start watching wrestling? Like, when did you start watching? What's been the most interesting thing for you to sort of sink your teeth into? It's just so people know that our
Yeah, of
knowledge
course.
and
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we
yeah, of
stand with
course.
wrestling.
So I mean, I'm obviously a few years younger than you. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
age shame you there, Kev. Don't worry.
yeah, mate. I'm old. I'm an old
Um,
mate. I'm falling apart, and I'm only 40 years old. So
yeah, yeah. I weren't good gonna say, but yeah, no, I'm a whole decade younger than our young Mr. Kev.
yeah,
I'm only 30, so obviously there's things that you remember that I don't. But I mean,
yeah,
I've got three older brothers, so. My eldest brothers are twins. They're 38, and then I've got another brother who's 35. So they was watching wrestling like before I was born. So like I don't have any memories of not watching wrestling.
not
Like
watching.
it's what
Yeah,
it's like. I I I've barely missed an episode of WWE since I honestly, I can't I can't even remember. It's like I remember my dad and my brothers all watching football. Obviously, the whole family are big, massive Man United fans, as you know. But
yeah,
I vividly remember being 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and not really having any interest in watching football. I loved playing it, and I was a
yeah.
Man United fan, but I just it didn't interest me.
That was
I
you know
got to about
that was
13.
that's exactly what happened with me, because my dad was a football coach to the school that I went to when I was at junior school. And like I said, I was I'm a Gooner. I'm an Arsenal supporter. I've always been, but I was never into football that way. I never wanted to play it. And sort of my dad was the coach, and I was never into that. I was into, I was a geek, so I was into like sci-fi and Star Trek and things
Yeah.
like that. But wrestling, I really hooked onto it. I think it was like 1987, I would say, when I really started getting into it. And
I was -5, guys. I was -5.
yeah, and then I went through a period where obviously at that age I was watching it constantly, like all the pay-per-views that I could watch and everything. And then I sort of started watching Star Trek, and the wrestling sort of just drifted away. And it was always there. It was something that was always there for me. So it was always either in the background, or I always knew what was going on, sort of.
Yeah.
And I started watching it again when I really went like off the edge. I kept a sort of close eye on it, but I didn't really watch it until the end of the sort of, well, I don't know where you would say the end of the Attitude Era was, but it was around 99. I was in secondary.
Yeah,
I was
I'd say
around 98. Around 98 it was. It was in my later time at secondary school, and there was a group of friends that were in the lower year that watched it, and so I sort of started watching it and started really getting back into it. But once again, I think you get to that age. I was around 16, 17. And mate, that's when girls. It took over, mate. It took over.
yeah.
So once again, it was always like, if it was on the telly, I'd watch it, but I
Yeah,
never followed it
yeah.
traditionally. I was more interested in going out nightclubbing, doing
Yeah,
stuff, and
little
everything else.
rascal.
But it was around 20, and then when I started really getting back into it, and I've got to say as well, it's really great having the WWE network, because the eras that I've lost, I can go back and watch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
I did exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
I'd say I was probably 15, 16. I had a good few years where I weren't really watching it.
yeah, yeah,
I think obviously 2003 Stone Cold retired and left, and then I believe
yeah,
it was not long after that where Rock went off and did Scorpion King
yeah.
and the rest of the history, and he was
I'm
the
well. I watched I remember watching everything from like 1998 up to about 2002. 2003 come along, but there was like this black area for me. So it was around 2003 till about 2006 where I didn't really watch anything wrestling wise.
Yeah.
You know, I met my wife during that period. You know, I had my first daughter at that period,
Yeah.
but you know, spending more time at home in 2006 when Holly was born, our
Yeah, of
oldest.
course, yeah.
So I was like watching it, and then obviously Kirsty remembered watching it as well, and we've just watched it sort of since. But I famously remember sort of 2001 being like my year, if I would say. You know, I remember it because obviously I'm a massive Kane fan,
Yeah,
and
same,
it
yeah.
sticks out as being like for me that was like the best year for Kane. So in 2001, he was the last person to get eliminated from the Royal Rumble. That was the Royal Rumble as well, where he eliminated 15 superstars until
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
broke quite recently, but it was broke. But he held that title up to that point. He won the Intercontinental title in 2001. He won the Hardcore title in 2001. He held. He was the first person to. Him and the Undertaker were the first person to hold the WWF and WCW titles at the same time, tag team titles.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I always see that year as sort of Kane's year. He obviously ended it at the end of that year, getting injured, but I still see that as like Kane's
Yeah,
best year in terms of titles and
absolutely.
matches and stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
yeah, no,
And
I absolutely agree there.
you
Yeah,
know, he was second in the Royal Rumble. He won every sort of minor intercontinental champion, tag team champion, a few times that year. You know, hardcore championship at WrestleMania, where you know he famously put Big Show through a wall and drove a golf buggy.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
everyone remembers that as well. Do you remember that? You know,
yeah.
where Kane went and drove the buggy sort of thing, and it was during like that was all during like the invasion storyline as well, which I thought was really good. Sort of fizzled out near the end, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
like the years that you stopped watching was when it did. It was the end of an era. Like you said before, that you don't know exactly what year, like the end of the Attitude Era is. No one can really nail it down because
no.
it slowly changed over a number of years. But
Well, it was
for
two. I
me,
think it was 2002 when it changed because that's
yeah,
when Vince McMahon came out and said ruthless aggression, and that's
yeah,
when you know Cena, Brock Lesnar
yeah, yeah.
all started to appear.
Yeah,
Um,
I think if you look from the year, like you were just talking about 2001, then and with
yeah,
Kane, but if you look at what happened over the next 2 years, you had Rock leave and become an actor.
yeah.
You had Stone Cold have to retire, and then
Well, he famously walked out of the company in 2002 when it was a match he was advertised for Brock Lesnar, and he famously walked out of the company. He literally just left, didn't he?
yeah.
That was in that time period as well. Like I said, that
Yeah,
was
but
just
he had a
after.
lot of he had neck. I mean,
Yeah, well,
there's months
he
that you
left
don't even
WWE.
remember.
Well, he left WWE. It was a King of the Ring tournament, so it was coming up for King of the Ring. Stone Cold had been sort of on high status, but come 2002, it drifted off, and he had quite a few middle card matches with the NWO, with Scott Hall and things like that. Brock Lesnar was the next, the next big thing. So they were pushing him hard, and he had a King of the Ring qualifying match, and it was with Stone Cold, and I think it was like the third match on the card, and Stone Cold went, "Hang on a minute, I was the biggest person in the company, right?" And he said, they said, "What, you're going to lose to Brock, and it's going to be the third card." And he was like, "On a Monday Night Raw, right? You're going to put Brock Lesnar over me, right?" And there's no build up. There was no build up. It was just advertised for that night. So when Raw started, they advertised it. And he goes, "There's no build up." He goes, "If you want that match, it should be either the main event or it should be on a pay per view, right?" And they went, "No, you're just going to put over Brock cleanly. They wanted Brock Lesnar to win cleanly over Stone Cold, and he, at that time, he was a big star still, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He was
because
big up, so he just went.
I think he was working hurt a lot in that period.
Yeah, he was also hurting as well, and he had neck problems, and he just went, nah,
Yeah, but
fuck this, and
I
he
mean,
went. He just walked out.
there's a very famous point a few months before he retired in 2003 where he hasn't, virtually he's lost an entire week. He doesn't remember anything that happened
Yeah,
that week because he was. But back then, the health and safety was nowhere near where it is now. There was constantly
no,
working with concussions, then getting concussions on top of
yeah,
concussions. There was obviously he had both of his knees were absolutely done. Back problems, hip problems, and
yeah.
ankle problems, neck problems. But all of them that worked through that Attitude Era, will be feeling the Attitude Era for the rest
Oh
of
yeah,
their lives.
oh yeah.
What
That
mankind?
definitely damaged them.
Yeah,
Doing the
yeah,
hardcore stuff. It was necessary. I think the timing was necessary. It's what got WWE
yeah,
sort of over, where WCW was doing sort of just awfully dumb shit, to be completely fair. Where they had RoboCop and Bagsworth's mum and all this sort of crap. When Rossio was in charge, and so I think that's why. But like you said, lots of them went through hell with injuries, being battered about at that point. But yeah, like how do you feel about WCW? I know on our podcast on YouTube where we've discussed AEW, and I just want to get your point on that, because obviously when it first started there was big hype for it and we were really excited for it, and then all of a sudden it's gone the other way. I don't know what's happened there. Maybe it's something we can touch on in further podcasts.
yeah. I mean, I think there's probably 2 points that I wanted to touch on for this because it was the introduction video, and obviously
Yeah,
I think I kind of want to give people that are listening things that they can actually get involved in, and
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's worth noting as well that you can send through this the way we're doing this podcast and through Spotify. You can actually not only send us a message, which we can then read out on the podcast, but you can actually
yeah,
do a voice message,
yeah, which
and you
doesn't
can
put
send
out,
a
yeah,
voice message, and we
yeah,
can play that on the cast as well. So
yeah. And which obviously both of us have been saying for the last few years that that's what we encourage. We want as
yeah,
many people getting involved as we can. But I think
yeah,
the 2 talking points is one is AEW,
yeah,
and my point on AEW would be, I think you made a comment that didn't that didn't go down particularly well about 12 months ago when we did one of our live shows on YouTube. And a lot of people, you got a lot of shit on our Facebook group for this. You got a lot of hate for saying that, Tony Khan is literally like a kid opening his presents on Christmas morning. Just yeah,
Well, I
he's
think
WWE
I think I
baby.
said that it was he's like he's out in wrestlers like Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah. It is,
He's got to catch
and
them all.
but you got a lot of heat for that because
Yeah,
obviously people that are all in, and that is pun very heavily intended. People that are all in on AEW are very much, how dare you say anything negative about my company?
yeah.
And at the same time, me and you have both openly said we're more WWE guys than we are AEW guys. But if
Yep.
AEW do something good, then we will call it good, and if WWE do
Yeah.
something shit, we will call it shit.
Yeah.
There's no bias. It's just that there's a lot of people that specifically that it tends to be AEW fanboys that don't like
Yeah.
anything negative being said. It's like they were going for,
When you
you know.
when you say things like this as well, it sort of comes in roundabouts, and I'll tell you why. I remember in 2008. This was before really the internet, took off, and we had Facebook and all that sort of stuff. But there was forums, and I remember the same sort of arguments between fans for WCW, and then in 2006 as well, I remember the same arguments when Impact was about, when Impact got people like, you know, Scott Hall, Kurt Angle, and all those sort of guys.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that, you know, when we've heard what's happened with AEW and that, it's all the same sort of arguments, if you know what I mean. It's nothing I haven't seen before when
No,
WCW was about and when Impact or
to be fair,
TNA was
Kev,
about heavy.
yeah, but to be
What was
fair,
that
Kev,
for?
that's something that you've been saying now for years. That you know,
Yes.
AEW reminds you of ECW and WCW, and people have always gone, no, 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 it's nothing like that. Well, not being funny, over the last 4 years, I think you've been very heavily proven right.
Yeah, well, you know, I've lived through that sort of eras, and you had people, even when WCW was losing in the ratings, and you still had the hardcore fans saying, you know, why would you watch that crap? You know, WCW is the best and all of this. And, you know, you had fans crying when WWF bought WCW. But like I said, I think it was 2006, 2007, when Kurt Angle went to TNA. Once again, everyone was chanting, oh, this is the death of WWE. You know, Vince McMahon bows to Carter and stuff like that. And it was just like, and now we're getting the same arguments. And I mean the exact same arguments that we had before, where people are like, because we had the arguments as well from the WWE fanboys as well, saying, oh, you know, why would you watch Impact where all the WWE rejects go? And you had the other argument where, oh, Impact's so much better now. We've got Kurt Angle. You know, why would he go back to that crap? And I was like, we're now having the same arguments, same, but with AEW. You know, I've said this before. Lots of people say, oh, you know, they're not doing very good in the ratings. Look, AEW will always be about now. It's going to be a bit like Impact. I think, you know, there was hype on it when it first came out. This was because WWE was taking hits. They were making these weird, you know, it was Vince McMahon. He was, I don't know what happened. He just lost his marbles and he was making the product rubbish. And AEW come along and took what we wanted and gave the fans what they wanted from WWE. And I think there was that insurgence. There was like, oh, you know, this is the best thing going and all that. It's like, well, I said to you at the time, I said, give it.
It was for a while.
I said, give it, you know, give it a year, give it a couple of years, and see where we are now.
I vividly remember us recording that podcast, and you did, you know, and at the time,
it's like, well, see,
at the time, WWE was bad.
Of course it was. Yeah,
when AEW started, WWE was almost unwatchable. It was unwatchably bad.
WWE, it was really bad.
And AEW was brilliant, but I do vividly remember you saying, give AEW 12 months, 18 months, and then let's see where they are. And you know, you called it because.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I've been here before, so I knew what was coming, and I was like, well, you know, you can't say this company's the best. You know, it's kicking their ass in the rating. And I was thinking, you know, a lot of people were saying as well, oh, you can't compare WWE to AEW. AEW's only been around for a year. And I was thinking, well, if they've got good content, they will flock. You know, it's a sort of, if you build it, they will come. And what I've seen now, you know, where we are, you know, 4 or 5 years now, where I said, you know, let's see where we are. The thing is, they're not in any better position than they were 5 years ago. They haven't grown their audience. And you've got to be thinking, right, well, where's their next play? Because you have to keep growing your audience. You have to. But there doesn't seem to be any progression. And, you know, I would have loved to have said, you know, that they're up there. They're you know, they're getting 1 million views. You know, the audience is growing every week, but it's not. It's actually fluctuating really badly, which means that people are just putting it on as and when, just to see what's going on. But yeah, I always said, you know, just wait, give it 5, see where they are in 5 years' time, and we'll go from there, sort of thing. You can't turn around and say, you know, this company's better than WWE or it's going to outperform them and all that. You can't say that right at the get-go. Just give it 5 years, and we're nearly there. And I've got to say, they're no better than they were, you know, 2 or 3 years ago when they started. They're just in the same spot. They're like in a rut. And you have to progress in wrestling.
Yeah,
You
but I
have
think
to.
I think the main reason for that is because their main creative drive was Cody.
Well, I sort of get that. I think they haven't got any. The problem with AEW, I think, before we go and everything, I think the main problem for me, and I'll get your point on this as well. The main problem for me with AEW is they've got no star power. There's no one there you're going to tune in every week for. No, and Goldberg's contract was up, and he said he's not doing any more with WWE. Loads of people were saying, "I hope he doesn't come to AEW," and I was thinking, well, why wouldn't he? If you want to grow your audience, whether you like Goldberg or not, he brings in people.
Yeah, of course he does.
So I was like, well, why wouldn't you want him there? Even if you come and you get him to do squash match, people. It's the same with Brock Lesnar. I was like, I can't believe they keep bringing Brock Lesnar in every now, because he draws money. People watch, even though they hate him and they're calling him names and they don't want to see him anymore. It increases viewership when he's on. And as a business person, you've got to be thinking, well, just keep him on the show then. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, where do you think you're at with AEW?
I think where I'm at with AEW is really simple. I think if you've got a company that's a lot of people like Tony Khan because he's a fan, and I get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. He's just like us as a fan, but like he's very much how we would be at 14 years old if we owned a wrestling company. He's just an overly giddy, excitable child, and that's why you've got people like Mox, obviously on his wife's podcast, saying things like, I worked on the Indies for 10 years. I worked for WWE for 8 years. That's nearly 2 decades of his life where he was working for other companies and other promotions. And he said he's never in his life seen so much bullshit and drama as what he's seen inside of AEW. And that's what happens when you've got an owner like him.
Do you remember I said this before? Everyone was like, oh, as soon as a WWE wrestler was released, they were like, go to AEW. It's so much better. They'll give you a chance.
Yeah.
And then I said, I think it was Big Swole. I think she left, didn't she? And she criticised that they said, oh, sorry about that. That's someone going down the road.
Okay.
And she criticised, didn't she? She said that if you don't have any creative bone in you and you're waiting for someone to give you it, you've got no hope there. You need to be creative yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll get lost. And she said, and she got very criticised for those comments. And then what we've had since is other stuff coming out, with Punk and everything else, and with Moxley as well. And people are now saying, actually, maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side.
No, which is so. Just very, very quickly before we go, why do you think Jay White chose AEW, or do you think WWE didn't approach him?
Well, I also want to touch on as we go forward. I used to on our Facebook group. I used to always post, bits that you get from the dirt sheet or something like that, right? And I always just post it, and I've stopped doing that now. Why? Because I think that it encourages sort of toxicity in the community, right? It creates unnecessary, and also I've noticed over the last 6 months that 90% of the stuff that they do or say is bollocks, right? Yeah. And I was like, they over the last couple of months they've posted stuff, and then about an hour later they've had to repost something else because what they've turned around and posted was complete bollocks.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, not only that, they're increasing the toxicity, and it is toxic in wrestling groups and stuff like that. And I was thinking they increased that, and that's why I don't sort of post that sort of stuff anymore because of that. But they've been consistently proven shit with their postings lately. So there was that. There's that as well. But it is what it is.
We will obviously touch more on that on the next episode. But like, what is your opinion on Jay White signing for AEW though?
Well, like I said, they posted that the reason he didn't sign with WWE was because of Vince McMahon. I personally think that's bollocks, and I personally think it's down to money. And I think that if he came into, I don't think he was a good fit for WWE, right? I don't think he would. I think a lot of people would love it, but I think he's a little bit like Will Ospreay, and I don't think the style and the way he would talk and walk and all that sort of stuff was a right fit for WWE. I think AEW was the perfect for him. It means he can still work indie dates. He can still have creative freedom, which I think that's what personally I think that's why he didn't go to WWE. It's because I think he would be sort of stronghold a little bit from what he wanted to do.
So then, one final point, and just very quickly, I love Jay White. I think he's fantastic, and I know what you're saying. But for me, I understand why AEW is a better fit for Jay White. I do think that Will Ospreay, on the other hand, in my opinion, is WWE made. I think Ospreay would.
I think they would do well in WWE, but I think the system that they go into in WWE.
Jay White, I am unsure on in the WWE product. I think he walks into the AEW product and knows exactly how to work.
He's already been there before. He's already worked there. So it's sort of like
I think Ospreay would smash it on WWE. But like the very final point before we end this one is this: what. You've just said there that you don't think that Jay White would be a good fit for WWE, which I agree with. You said that you're not sure that Ospreay would work well with WWE. I personally think he'd do very, very well in WWE. But then, obviously, on the 1st of January, which is in eight and a half months' time, MJF's contract's up, and it's pretty much nailed on that he's coming to WWE. I'd be very, very surprised if he doesn't. Now, what for me makes MJF such a monster of a star is his character, is his attitude. I don't give a fuck. I'll do what I want. I will say what I want. If I want to
MJF for me is one of those rare breed of wrestlers where you're either good in the ring and crap on the mic, or you're good on the mic but crap in the ring. And Randy Orton's one of them who's good at both. And it's very rare you'll get a wrestler that is good at both.
I
think MJF is that person. I think he's good in the ring and he's good on the mic. So
but my question's more towards MJF's definitely allowed a lot more freedom in AEW than what he would be on WWE. Do you think MJF could still be the star that he is and get even bigger within the WWE product when there will be things that he won't be allowed to say or do?
He would definitely get more popular coming to WWE. It all depends on what creative they want as well, and how they go. So
it depends whether the rumors of Vince being back in creative influence are true. If Vince is back in control of creative, which I hope he isn't, but if he is, MJF would get suffocated to within an inch of his life. All he would get is Vince going, "You can't say that, you can't say that, you can't do that." Whereas I think if it's Triple H, if Triple H has full say, I think Triple H would turn around and say, "Max, go out there and say what you want." Because Triple H knows that MJF can create magic on a mic. Can you imagine, Orton and MJF in a rival, or Owens and MJF in a rival? That would be the promo battles with them would be epic.
Oh, there's massive potential there, especially, and I think it would only increase his value if he went to WWE. But he's a businessman. I've said this before. Many of the wrestlers are business. They're very savvy.
Yeah.
So if they really want him at AEW and they're offering him more money, even Vince McMahon and other people, when Jericho and Big Show have gone to AEW, that he's gone, they're offering me this at AEW, and he's going, well, I can't match that. Go and have fun. You take that offer. And I think that would be, there would be a price they'll pay for him, but I don't think they'll pay over the odds for him.
No.
It all depends, these are for like future podcasts as we go forward to talk about, you know.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
you know, that's
these are massive talking points. Like me
well, of
bringing
course,
up,
yeah.
I apologise for that, Kev, because me bringing
That's
up
all right.
stuff like MGF and is Vince McMahon in charge of WWE, mate, that's something that it would take us hours to talk about. So
Oh yeah,
definitely
yeah.
for future podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. But look, I mean, that's just our introduction into what you can expect from our podcast
Yeah.
and going forward and stuff. And obviously, we're going to review. We'll probably do a few different podcast styles. So we'll do this sort of one where we're talking just general wrestling, and then we'll review sort of WWE shows. Probably at the end of the week, so we can sort of say Raw was okay, NXT was okay, or maybe we'll review each show as and when. But I think this format's a lot better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's miles better.
Yeah. So look, we're gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
Give the podcast a like, a little subscribe on Spotify or anywhere where you're watching this, including YouTube. And we're gonna leave it there, mate. What do you reckon? Yeah, we'll leave it there. I think
Yeah, definitely.
we've got more to say.
Yeah.
Look, thanks for joining me, Dan. It's been ace talking and
Pleasure as always,
everything.
mate.
Yeah. So take it easy. Take everything easy, and we'll
Yeah.
see you at the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you at the next one. Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy, guys.